Hello, William here with the Grand Duke Dmitri 1915 Diary Series, and we are ensconced at Stavka at headquarters. And what did we have last time? We did diary entries for the 6th, 7th, and 8th of July, and 3 seems to be a good number. These little short ones that are really only notes are about twice as hard. Twice as hard and twice as time consuming. Strangely, it's much easier for me to do one of the proper long diary entries, not because of translation, of course, but because of the trying to figure things out based on this sort of diary shorthand that Dmitri is using, and because there are so many new people coming and going. Stavka was a busy place and the area around it. But anyway, I'm not complaining. I really enjoy doing these. I just thought, we were going to go through them zip, 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 and there would be no 20-minute videos. But as it turns out, because of all the gaps that need to be filled in, it's been fairly slow. We are skipping a lot. We've been pretty steady. Today we're doing the 9th, the 11th, and the 12th of July, so skipping the 10th. Not that I'm skipping anything, but that Dmitri is not taking his notes every single day. And then pretty much the entire month of August will be missing for whatever reason, and we'll resume in September. But anyway, at the moment, we're still in July. Our recap, well, it's just kind of, he hasn't been there that long. He's kind of establishing a routine, and part of that routine is riding every day, horseback riding, and also tennis. If you took the word Stavka out of these diary entries, you would probably and didn't know the dates, you would probably think he was in some kind of resort in France or Germany, because it doesn't really read like someone who's in the middle of a war or who's doing military duty. Anyway, enough editorializing. We start with the 9th/22nd of July, and here we go. Morning massage, afternoon dominoes. Returned to my quarters for a while. Read a letter from Ella, miniature Bankendorf, Stopford. Tea, chess with Petusha, Alberto, dinner at Stavka before conversation with Solov, staff cinema, tea at Soldatenkova's, Maravyov at my place in the evening. So there you go. It's almost encoded if you don't already know the basic scenario. So this massage is something that's going to become part of his routine, this massage in the morning. And, I don't know in particular, he wasn't getting massages back in Petrograd or Moscow, so maybe it's something from his leg injury or just the fact that he's out there riding and playing tennis every day. Anyway, what kind of work was he doing? I'd really like to know. He was an adjutant, I believe, but there's also a hint, which you'll see coming up, that he was doing things in relation to horses. So with his regiment, he had been basically a horse trainer, not under combat, of course. And now, as we'll see, he's consulting on the subject of horses. So I think that's what he was doing. Anyway, when he refers to read a letter from Ella. So Ella is Ella Bankendorf, Countess Ella Bankendorf, and he'd been interested in her back in Petrograd, had been seeing her, and now her name has also come up here. And so she sent him a letter, and it sounds like she sent him a miniature painting of herself. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. He says, read a letter from Ella, miniature Bankendorf. So I don't think she was miniature. I think she was a full-size person. I think, she sent him a miniature. So that sounds kind of, kind of things are coming along with this relationship. Then he mentioned Stopford, who was the notorious Albert Bertie Stopford, who was not a military man, but had offered himself as sort of an intelligence liaison, had offered that to the British government, and apparently they took him up on it. It wasn't high-level espionage, but he was keeping, finding things out and staying aware, and reporting back. I guess that's espionage, but in a casual kind of way. He was, by profession, an antiques dealer, and considered a very important one, a real expert. He was a gay man. He was, which really astonished me because I'd read about him before in relation to the Rasputin assassination. He was 55 years old. I assumed that he was closer to Dmitri's age and to Felix Yusupov's age because Felix Yusupov was another of his friends. And, in this sort of revisionist history of the Rasputin assassination, as I mentioned yesterday, Stopford was seen as proof that it was a British intelligence operation, and, I just don't buy that. Anyway, he will be mentioned in Dmitri's 1920 diary. I don't remember what the reference is, so we'll have to wait till we get there. Then, this kind of charming scene where Dmitri plays chess with Grand Duke Pyotr Nikolaevich, and, he's very casual with Nikolai Nikolaevich and Pyotr Nikolaevich. He calls them Nikolasha and Petyusha. He doesn't say if he won or not. You remember back in the good old days when he was at Usovo and he was playing every night with Laming, and he was losing every time and getting more and more frustrated with that. So maybe he did better with Petyusha. Now the mention of Alberto, you know that if you watched the previous video, Alberto was a horse, and apparently he's a better horse than Tolstoy, the other horse. I don't know. So then what else? Well, he mentions going, I don't know who Solov was that he has a conversation with. I would guess someone involved with the horses, but I don't know. Doesn't seem to be a friend. Then he attends the staff cinema. He's been going out to the cinema, but this time he mentions that it's the staff cinema, so it's there at headquarters, and my guess would be that it was probably newsreels, that it probably wasn't entertainment cinema. I mean, it could have been both, but it was interesting what was going on with newsreels at that time. I know, oddly enough, from my work as a historian in Davos and going through local publications during precisely this time period of 1915, and one of the things that took place in Davos, which was very interesting, it was very much an international health resort and tuberculosis center. And so what the local cinema did was that one week they showed newsreels of the Battle of the Somme that were produced by the French. And the next week they showed newsreels on the Battle of the Somme with actual footage, in both cases, that were produced by the Germans. And so they let people, watch those. Anybody that went and watched both of those would, see the varying points of view, shall we say. And then, Tiva Soldatenkova, she's another woman who's kind of on the list. I don't know if she was one of Dmitri's many older female friends or if there was any physical dimension. Alexandra, the Empress, kind of hinted in one of her complaining letters to Nicholas about Dmitri. She was adamant that he should be sent to the front, to the real front, instead of headquarters, and she kind of intimated that he was playing around with Soldatenkova at headquarters. I don't know where she got her information. Anyway, next we have this evening with Valery Nikolaevich Muravyov at Dmitri's place, and this had nothing to do with horses. Muravyov was a courtier and a diplomat. And he was there at Stavka in his capacity as a diplomat. He was the diplomatic liaison there at Stavka, one of them. And he was only about 6 years older than Dmitri, so he had an impressive post for a man in his late 20s, or 30, 31. And yeah, that's about it for that one. Do I dare to do one more? Well, I'm going to try. Okay, so here's for the 11th/24th. We've skipped the 10th. And here we go. Morning massage, telegrams to the Countess Babushka Olga. Lunch at Stavka, then meeting with Freitag. Tennis, bet with a Cossack, blank, unintelligible word. Tea at Stavka, afternoon road to tennis, dinner at Stavka, dominoes. Okay, so the telegrams. Well, he sent telegrams to the Countess, Babushka, and Olga. So we know who Babushka is. This is Grandma. And it's rather sweet. He seems to be kind of, close to her while she's in Russia. And the Countess, well, my colleagues Natasha and Alexandra say that this is Dmitri's stepmother, Countess Hohenfelsen, who then became Princess Palais. I thought she was already Princess Palais in 1915. So I kind of, unless they have some inside information that they haven't shared with me, and there's no reason why they wouldn't, and I'm sure, they put a footnote. This has been published in Russia, and their footnote says this was Dmitri's stepmother, but I don't see any confirmation of that, and I'd be rather inclined to think that it was a telegram to Frau Benkendorf, Countess Benkendorf, Ella Benkendorf, because he'd just gotten a letter from her the day before with this miniature. So doesn't it make perfect sense to acknowledge that gift and send her a telegram? I think it does. Olga, well, Natasha and Alexandra identify her as Grand Duchess Olga Alexandrovich, the Tsar's sister. And again, I don't know, because they didn't like each other. Dmitri and Olga never liked each other, even back when Dmitri was a child, or a teenager, I should say. So, yeah, I don't know. Olga could be anyone. Could be the Tsar's eldest daughter. But anyway, it is what it is. Then he has this meeting. He says it exactly that way. It's a meeting with Freitag. Freitag was Leonid Oskarovich Freitag von Loringhofen. Very aristocratic name, and as we'll find out a little later, he was directly involved with the horses. So it makes sense that Dmitri had this meeting with him. He was in his 40s. He was a colonel. He was a commander of a cavalry regiment that was basically, or had been before the war, had been a border guard regiment. Okay, finally, tennis and massage, or tennis. And yeah, so I will stop there. I thought we could get 3 in, but these ones are particularly complicated. And the next one has Dmitri traveling and spending the night at, I think several nights at, a local country estate. and lots of people to talk about. So let's postpone that till tomorrow, and we have a new woman in relation to this estate whom Dmitri will be spending time with. Okay, phew. I hope to see you then. Bye.